Hello and welcome to my first podcast. You are listening today to we have to acknowledge how far we have come. I'm most certainly your host, Max Rack. Small note at the beginning, we all consume content in a different way and we all enjoy consuming that content in different ways. Therefore, you are able to listen to the podcast either through your podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and many more, or through YouTube listening to it, while you're also able to watch the episode underlying with a PowerPoint presentation through Facebook or YouTube as well. What you then also be able to do is apply what you've learned through that episode, or even share it with your friends to be able to talk about it in more detail. So if you want to listen and watch the visual presentation on YouTube, you will be able to do that through the link in the show notes, which is mr90.de/YTE and the number 32. You will find that link directly in the show notes. You will be able to hop over and get the visual as well. So no matter which way you want to consume that content, feel free to change the channels and play around with it. Maybe you don't even know that you enjoy the visual more and you used to listen to it. But please don't do that while you drive or use any heavy machinery. Thank you. This podcast is about my journey from mediocrity to mastery. It will illustrate the learnings along my journey. It will bring out tricks, tips, and exercises which help me to get ahead faster, which will also help you to get ahead faster when applied, which will then have the potential to be your shortcut to your mastery. Today's story is about something I have been remembered last week. By accident, my actually first HR manager in my career, many years ago. To be exact, 12 years ago now, has been in Barcelona, Spain, at the same time I have been traveling. Totally coincidental, or as my coach likes to say, there's no coincidence, so it was meant to be. So I think we had a pizza or something like that in a small restaurant in Barcelona, and I was remembered of how everything kind of started in my career. So do you even remember that? Remember me of that we all have started at some point in our lives, our careers, our relationships, or anything in our life has started at some point. And to see from where we have come is at times very hard for ourselves. It's easier to see the progress, the learnings, and who we have developed to by others. So I also got a nice note the day after when I thanked her for meeting with me, that she said she's happy and it was nice to see that I am where I am right now and the path I have been going through. And especially was probably for me to, or the special person she is to me, that she has been my first, or still is, my first HR manager I have had. The same she may have, to see me growing into a more mature man, more experienced role, more senior role than obviously I have been starting off. So that's great to receive that feedback from others. We certainly can't give ourselves, because we're not able to see that unbiased or even that huge involvement, that huge growth for ourselves, because we have been there every single step along the way. So we've seen even the smallest increments or even the steps we have taken backwards through that entire time. So we can't see the big leaps, because we have always been there the entire process, the entire progress. So looking back, let's say 5 years ago, where have you been 5 years ago? Just bring your memories back. If you listen at the day of that episode being released on the 3rd of August 2019, 5 years ago, was the 3rd of August 2014. Where have you been? Who have you been with? Where have you been working at? Who have you been working with? So for me, 5 years ago, I have been in Dublin, Ireland. I had been already with the same partner I'm with now almost 8 years. And I have been working at an American company which brought me to the beautiful Dublin, Ireland. And I have been working with incredible colleagues which have grown into friends, which I'm still in contact with. Is that similar to you? Maybe just remember that. Look back to your past. What has changed? So where are you right now? Today? Are you in the same country? Are you in a different one? Different city? Different continent maybe? Who are you now? Who are you with now? Where do you work? And who do you work with? So for me, I'm not in Ireland anymore. I'm back to Germany, the country where I have been born. But I'm living almost 400 kilometers away from the place I have been born. In an apartment, in a winery, next door to the owners of the winery, or founders of the winery, whatever way you want to look at it. Who am I now? But from 5 years ago, I'm 5 years older. I have learned so many things. And I have even learned and adapted things which brought me into a different career. That brings me to where I work now. I work in a consultancy company. And who I work with many colleagues I respect. I learn and gain knowledge from on a daily basis. So looking back those 5 years, I've been working in an IT support role, not even knowing the ERP system I'm supporting right now, or I'm consulting with, and being able to teach the knowledge I gained the last, almost a little bit more than 4 years, 4.5 years or so now, to other people. So 5 years ago, from today, there's been a lot which has been changed. Working in an IT support role, moving into a management accounting role, and then moving into a project where I've been, getting in touch with an SAP system for the first time. something I do now for a living. And from there, I've excelled, mastered the system in a way that I'm now able to teach others, to help others to take decisions based on my knowledge. And that's something I'm very proud of. So I'm sure when you look back 5 years, there's been huge leaps from where you had been to where you are today. So always remember, where you are right now is not where you want to be and where you will be in 5 years' time. And your daily actions will determine how big that leap will become. So could you have even imagined those big leaps 5 years ago, that you will grow and do something as incredible as has happened during those 5 years? For me, certainly I wouldn't have dreamed of. I lived in 2 different countries. I lived in several federal states in another country I'm just moved back to, which I grown up and been born in. I travel and worked in many countries. I received a US visa. I traveled to US. I were in Serbia, Austria, Ireland, obviously, Switzerland, Italy, Canada, and probably a few who have forgotten at this stage. I traveled in business class across continents, where through my 4 or 5 visits to the US, I had the pleasure to be allowed to travel in business class, an experience I have never had before. And I think it's the true pleasure of traveling. I like to travel a lot, but if you are able to do that the true means of travel. You're so relaxed. You're so more concentrated and fresh when you arrive. And I think that's the true means of traveling, to get to a place in a short period of time, far, far away, get the rest needed during the flight to be fresh on the other end. And I think that's an experience every one of us should be able to experience at one time of their lives, their careers. I gained knowledge, as I said earlier, I gained knowledge to empower myself, to educate others. So now I use my experience to educate others which are new to a system where they want to adapt their processes and systems into something more standardized, which is less frequently needed to be renewed, which needs less support, resources, and which has a higher uptime, less downtime, less maintenance. And to the knowledge I have gained the last 5 years, or especially the last 4 years, I'm able now to educate others on the matter and empower them to take the right decision for their processes and their companies. In most cases companies, because it's global projects I'm working on. So to recap and give back what I have learned from looking back 5 years in my life, and I hope you take the time and also do the same exercise and look back and reflect, is that we have to acknowledge where we came from. Because through acknowledging where we came from, we are able to acknowledge that some parts of our life where we may struggle, which we have difficulties to overcome, we did have struggles in other areas of our lives years ago, which we did overcome. And through that, we built the confidence, or we borrowed the confidence from other areas where we had struggled and where we had overcome those struggles, borrow that confidence into other areas and use that confidence to overcome the fear, the unknown, to gain through those experiences, because they're just different experiences. There's nothing we have to be afraid of, nothing we have to be ashamed of, and nothing we don't know we can overcome, because if we truly keep working on it, we're able to overcome anything we set our mind to. But we also have to celebrate what we have achieved. If we don't celebrate what we have achieved, if we don't pat our back to be proud of ourselves, I have a reminder actually 3 times a day, at 10 a.m, 1 a.m, 1 p.m, and at 4 p.m, which reads patience, brave, and proud. The things I like to remember myself 3 times a day. Areas I know I can grow at, and I have to grow in to become the better version I want to be, which is firstly my patience. At times I like to have the things right now. I don't want to put the reps in to be patient to gain that, so the instant gratification is really high. That's where I remind myself at. Bravery. I have to be brave to overcome fears and struggles to get where I want to get to. And proud. If I have overcome something big, I usually haven't overcome the big thing at once. I went small incremental steps and overcome the big thing at the end. But while I went those incremental steps, like if you would look at going up a stairway with 1,000 stairs, going that last 1,000 step doesn't feel like that huge of achievement. But the entire other 999 steps leading up to that one last step have been that part you should be highly proud of. And by remembering myself to that daily, I remember that every single step I do today, looking back those 5 years, was necessary to overcome that big achievement, or to be able to achieve that big goal I set myself up to. So that's why proud is put there as well. So we have to celebrate what we achieve, although it might not look like a big achievement at the time, because it was it was a other incremental step to something we have been working for years or even decades. And dream big. As I said, if you want to go up those 1,000 steps and you would have only dreamed of going up 500 steps, you would have stepped after 500, because you wouldn't have go even further. So if I set my goal to go up to 10,000 steps and I go that one step every day and I end up at 2,500, I would have achieved 2,500 instead of 500, because I dreamed bigger. So if you wanna if you aim for the stars and you don't hit them, you still have reached the sky, which is much greater than you could have imagined. So by dreaming big and then planning those big dreams into small steps, into even daily action points. By daily I mean all those days ending on a day, every single day. Put those small steps in. Like if you want to come into great shape, like I want to run a half marathon, I have set up a plan I follow strictly. So I have 5 runs a week. While this week I had given my body more recovery time, because I knew my legs didn't feel a way that I was able to push fully through those workouts. So set small steps, but make sure to adapt them through the needs you have, but don't totally skip it. Adapt your plans the way you are able to follow through with those small steps leading up to that big goal, because if you do the small steps, eventually you're gonna go much further than we could have thought of. Because you also know by doing those small steps, your gains will exponentially compound. They will increase much higher than we could ever imagine. And perhaps it's that one last step in that huge stairway we have to overcome to break through and have that one thing we have always dreamed of. Because we never know how far we are away or how close we are. So giving up is not an option. We have to push through. And at times, obviously, your body will tell you, your mind will tell you, we have to slow down to be able to accelerate even quicker afterwards. So always going at 110% will not get you where you want to go. Thanks for listening up to this point. And I want to ask you for a small favor. So if you're a previous listener, a returning listener, I thank you dearly. Or if you're a listener for the first time, you came across the podcast, maybe we have been chatting on any social media, on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, anything, and we came across the podcast and I sent you the link to the podcast and you got to listen to it. Thank you for doing that. And if you were able to take anything out of that podcast, that episode, or any other episode you have been listening to, I would like you to go to your app, the phone, the laptop, whatever platform you're using right now. Take the link of this episode, or even take a screenshot. You can tag myself with MaxRuck, or use the hashtag #myfirstpodcast and share the episode and the learnings you had from that episode, at least with 3 friends, and get them to listen to it. Chat with them about what their achievements have been the last 5 years, how far they have come, who they are still in contact with the last 5 years. Maybe even pull out that email address, that phone number, and reaching out to someone they had been really close 5 years ago, and just thanking them for being there for them 5 years ago at the time they needed them. So thank you for listening today. I'm your host, Max Röck, and until next time.